Hello, my name is Neel and I am back with a new episode of Around the World in 7 days. As always, today again we will take a look at important event of the international affairs and analyze it. Apart from that, we will also take a quick glance at some other global events. But first, let's start with the main story. Recently, a landmark event happened in the history of India's neighboring country, China. Actually, Xi Jinping became the president of China for the third time in a row. We are referring to this as a landmark event in the history of China because Jinping has become the first Chinese leader to hold the office of president for 3 consecutive terms. He became the president of country for the first time in year 2013. After that, he got another chance in 2018. Although last year itself it became clear that Jinping will become president for the third time, yet it was on this Friday at the annual National People's Congress delegates formally announced the appointment of Xi Jinping as the chairman of the Central Military Commission. A pertinent question here is that what is the big deal in a person becoming president for the third time in a row? There are many instances of a person getting elected to the office for 3 or more times, right? Yes, there are many such instances, but this case is a little bit different. Let's try to understand it. Actually, this is being seen as an increase in Xi Jinping's power. Jinping is considered to be the most powerful leader of China after Mao. In such a situation, another question that emanates from this first question is, what does it mean? That is, what is the meaning of Xi Jinping becoming strong? Does this strength of Jinping hold importance only in the domestic politics of China, or does it have significance in the global affairs as well? Also, why is Xi Jinping being called a powerful leader? We will come to all these questions, but before that, let's understand what it means for India. Broadly speaking, India-China tensions may further escalate during Jinping's third term. Why so? If we take a look at the relations between the two countries in the last decade, it is very clear that they have been on a downward trajectory, especially ever since the arrival of Xi Jinping at the helm of affairs. I mean, the Chinese political affairs. The face-off that happened in the Doklam area is not very old, and the Galwan issue also still persists, far from being resolved. It is believed that now Jinping will get almost unlimited power and its effects will be seen on India-China border. This can threaten India's security. The heat of the incident in Galwan Valley still persists, as we just mentioned. While discussing the impacts of Xi Jinping's third term on India, we also need to keep in mind that the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which is a very ambitious project with great strategic significance, started during Jinping's presidency itself. It is a part of the Belt and Road Initiative. This project may also get a boost in Jinping's third term, which will invariably pose an increased security threat to India. Not just Pakistan, China has also made deep inroads in India's other neighboring countries like Sri Lanka, Nepal, and Bangladesh. This Chinese presence has been the main reason for deteriorating India-Nepal relations in the last few years. In the Indian Ocean, China is using Sri Lanka's Hambantota port. This has increased the risk of siege of India from 3 sides, that is, Pakistan in the west, Nepal in the north, and Sri Lanka in the south. It is not that Xi Jinping is only menacious or dangerous for India. The way his power is increasing, he can pose a threat to the entire world as well. We are saying so because Xi Jinping is a megalomaniac person. Ever since he assumed power in China, its geopolitical posturing has been unacceptably aggressive. You might think that why are we calling him megalomaniac? Isn't it too harsh on him? And what is that aggressive posturing that China has adopted? Let's see with some examples. Actually, in the last decade, China built the world's largest navy. It has modernized its army. In fact, Xi Jinping has also vowed to make Chinese army, that is the People's Liberation Army, as the largest army in the world. China has increased its nuclear stockpile in the recent years. It has also upgraded its weapon delivery systems. In simple words, it has upgraded its missiles. This posturing by China has not just troubled India, but China's neighboring countries as well. That is why countries like Japan, Taiwan, Vietnam, and Philippines have also started increasing their military strength, and probably This trend of increased military expenditure will continue in the near future. Now let's get back to China and see some more examples of China's aggressive posturing. Recently, China presented its draft budget for the year 2023. According to this, China will spend $225 billion on its military. If we compare this amount with the last year's defense budget, the increase is 7.2%. In fact, China's defense budget has been increasing for 8 consecutive years. Last year, there was an increase of 7.1%. It is clearly indicative of Jinping's aggressive policy. Additionally, Jinping is also considered to be a supporter of expansionist policy. Ever since he took over as the president, China's neighboring countries have been extremely worried. It's the result of his expansionist policy only that all its neighboring countries have started increasing their defense expenditure, and that makes sense as well. From Japan and South Korea to the Philippines, all the countries are extremely concerned about the growing influence of China. This is the reason why these countries are also increasing their defense budget. If we take the example of Japan, then it has presented a defense budget of $51.7 billion for the coming year. If we compare it with the last year, it is 26% more. The gravity of the situation can be understood from the fact that since the end of Second World War, Japan has followed a pacifist policy. It advocated peace and refrained from forming an advance army. If a country like Japan is compelled to change its decade-old policy and increase its defense expenditure by a humongous amount of 26%, then the situation becomes self-explanatory. The list is not just limited to Japan or South Korea. China's confrontation with the ASEAN countries in the South China Sea has also increased in the recent years. The root cause of the confrontation is that China lays claims on the entire region, while the Philippines, Malaysia, Vietnam, and Brunei also claim some of these areas. Tension has also increased between China and the Philippines in the last few months. The growing aggression of China in this region has forced these countries, including the Philippines, to increase their vigilance. South Korea is also worried about China's growing military power. Actually, its concerns have a North Korean angle. Basically, tensions between South Korea and North Korea in the Korean Peninsula are decades old. North Korea continues to be aggressive in this area. It keeps testing missiles almost every now and then. The important thing to understand here is that China is a close friend of North Korea. Therefore, South Korea feels that if the situation ever worsens, China may intervene on behalf of North Korea. And that's why South Korea also has decided to increase its defense spending. It is believed that most of the defense equipment purchased by South Korea will be deployed against North Korea. So those were just few examples. Actual cases are many more. And probably now you would have understood that why we were referring Xi Jinping as megalomaniac and China's posturing as aggressive. Now, if we get back to the current event, that is third term of Xi Jinping as the president, in the most likelihood, his aggressive policies will continue unabated. Experts are also of the view that during his third term, Jinping will focus on making China's economy even more powerful and subsequently building a stronger army. In the National People's Congress, that is the NPC, the matter of sticking to the One China policy was strongly reiterated. Let us tell you that NPC is the highest organ of state power in China, and this body elects the president. And now that it has re-elected Xi Jinping as the president and has also reiterated its commitment to the One China policy, China's aggression towards Taiwan may further increase in future. Since Jinping is heading the world's second largest economy and one of the strongest armies of the world, his policies will probably be more authoritarian domestically as well as externally. Concerned by China's aggression, South Korea is developing a blue water navy. Australia is buying nuclear-powered submarines. India is also buying new missiles, air defense systems, submarines, etc. And the list goes on and on and on. All credit to Xi Jinping and his aggressive policies. So to conclude, we can assume that Xi Jinping's third term may further increase the troubles in an already troubled globe. And now it's the turn of this program's Sunday special episode in which we will take a look at some other important international news events. Recently, the US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin visited Israel. During his visit, he expressed his concern over the increasing violence in the West Bank. Along with this, he also urged Israel to take steps to reduce tension in this area. Austin said that the US is particularly concerned by the violence against the Palestinians. He also said that Israel must work towards a just and lasting peace. Actually, violent clashes are being witnessed these days in the West Bank occupied by Israel. In fact, just hours before Austin's visit, 3 Palestinian fighters belonging to Jabba Brigade were killed there by the Israeli forces. Recently, the French President Emmanuel Macron said in a statement that the era of French intervention in Africa is over. Macron made this statement during his visit to Africa. He further said that the French military presence in Africa would be reduced gradually in the coming days. Significantly, France had withdrawn its troops from Mali, Burkina Faso, and the Central African Republic last year only. Actually, the French president was on a visit to 4 African countries, that is Gabon, Angola, Republic of Congo, and the Democratic Republic of Congo. The purpose of the visit was to reset the disturbed relations with Africa. Let us tell you that anti-French sentiment has reportedly reached an all-time high in some of the France's former colonies in Africa. Some experts are of the view that the growing Russian and Chinese influence in the region could be responsible for this. They also say that due to this effect, the continent of Africa is becoming a new diplomatic battleground. Lastly, the US has expressed hope that Australia will announce the purchase of 5 US Virginia class nuclear-powered submarines by the year 2030. If US officials are to be believed, it will do so as part of a historic Pacific Security Agreement signed with the US and the United Kingdom. In addition, the US submarines will also visit Australian ports in the coming years. Significantly, the Pacific Security Agreement is known as AUKUS. It was announced in September 2021. This includes collaborating on hypersonic missiles, artificial intelligence, and cyber warfare. This is being seen as an attempt to counter China's growing power in the region. That's all for today's discussion. Let's note down today's question. The increased defense expenditure by countries produce a domino effect which may jeopardize the global peace. Elaborate this statement with some recent examples. That was all for this episode of Around the World in 7 days. See you in next episode. Till then, goodbye.